off to a huge
Well,
pizza
let
oven
us
in the
let us
sky.
begin. Our guest is in the wings.
Okay.
How are you
Good
this
morning.
morning?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's the matter? Oh,
I'm
the
buzzing.
buzzy.
Yeah,
Yes.
I wore your shirt,
Well, you're going to need a
and
better background, maybe like this one here.
yeah. Well, can I do BG?
You can.
Where where is the BG?
Actually, we shouldn't be wasting time because we have a guest and I have a brain spurt to share with you before we continue. So
Okay, off we go.
I'll turn this off. We'll play with this some other time. We were talking about baking yesterday, and I just want to cover off on a couple of little things that have come to my attention of late. And
Okay.
there was a piece published in by Radio-Canada yesterday. Yeast and flour are very, very difficult to find on grocery store shelves
Yes.
these days. And all of the Fleischmann's yeast, by the way, is manufactured here in LaSalle at a plant on Ainsley. Is it Aisley or Ainsley? Airlie Street in
Airlie. Yeah,
LaSalle.
Ainsley's in Montreal West. Yeah, I know exactly where that is.
Out
Yeah.
of this unassuming plant, and they're supplying Fleischmann's yeast to all of North America. We were talking about supply chains and with 3M masks and things in recent days and weeks. And this is
All of
how
North America.
all of North America coming out of this plant in LaSalle. So some of it's ending up at your local IGA or Metro, and a lot of it is ending up at Kroger's and Price Chopper in the US. That's just the way things work. And that led me to look into a bit more. Flour, Five Roses, and Robin Hood are owned by Smucker Foods of USA. Perhaps you did not know that.
No, I thought Robin Hood was a good
Nope,
old-fashioned Canadian. Well, a lot of good
Canadian.
old-fashioned
Yep.
Canadian companies are owned by American
So
companies.
Five
Yeah.
Roses and Robin Hood are American brands for all intents
Five
and purposes.
Roses.
And there are reports now, and I have no proof of this, that Smucker's is moving a lot of the product south of the border. Again, this is how supply chains work, but is it borrowing from Peter to pay Paul? I don't know. And Smucker is not speaking about this at all. I know at least one reporter is looking into this. Then again, that's how the cookie crumbles, right? They also own Bix Pickles, and I'll remind you that 10 years ago, they put 150 people out of work in Canada when they shut down the Bix operations. When you buy a Bix pickle, it comes from the USA. It's made in the United States by Smuckers. You won't find a Bix pickle in this household, by the way. We eat Strubs.
Mrs. White's?
Mrs. White's Strubs, made in Quebec. If you want a real pickle, go for a Canadian-made Strubs. They also make pickled eggs, which got me thinking about when I used to go to the tavern in North Bay, Ontario at the Empire Hotel.
Oh my God.
There used to be 3 Empire Hotels, one in Timmins, one in Huntsville, and one in North Bay. And there was always a big jar of pickled eggs on the corner of the bar. And that got me thinking about the Joni Mitchell song. He was sitting in the lounge of the Empire Hotel. He was drinking for diversion. He was thinking for himself, a little money riding on the Maple Leafs. And the people in Huntsville claimed that their Empire Hotel was the origin of that line, and people in North Bay will tell you otherwise. Anyway, these structures are long gone. But that's
I thought there was an Empire in Toronto that she was referring to.
No, I think.
Speaking of Strubs, I've never heard of Strubs. Where are they from?
Oh, they're made by Mrs. White's. The Strubs pickles have been around for a long time, and
I don't think I've seen them on shelves in ages. Certainly not at our age.
They're terrific. Absolutely. If you want a real pickle from here, you go for a Strubs. Brian Murphy's standing by. Did you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. First of all, there is Brian Murphy, our guest. There is a beautiful shot Brian often uses.
You're not sharing.
I'm not sharing.
Click on your green share.
Hold on a second now. Let me go back.
It should be near the bottom of wherever you floated the bar.
Hold on a minute. Okay, where's my share screen?
It's like my dad paying his bills online.
Hold on.
Where's that icon there? I'm trying to get my balance.
Where is it? It's at the bottom. I had it at the bottom.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
We'll do this another time because Brian has a lot of technology. There it is. There it shows up, but it doesn't show up in my. You know why? Okay. There we are.
There you are.
Well, there's Murph in Tahiti or wherever it is he goes. There's Murph in a nice bow tie.
Yes.
There's a program called Mock the Week, a wonderful program on BrickBox with Dura O'Brien is the host. It is actually just an excuse for 6 or 7 stand-up comedians in Britain to tell jokes about the politics of the day. It is scathingly funny. One of my favorite members of it is this gentleman here, who is right out of the weirdest of English stand-up comics.
Mark
And one of the things that Milton Jones, this is his name, Milton Jones, of the bad hair and the bad shirts, does is tell things. He's in the Spike Milligan mold, and he just tells weird things. And he's brave enough, because it happens every time, for a long pause after he tells a joke. And one of the stand-up things they do is just this quick open mic stand-up stuff, and they go to the mic and they tell a joke. And one of his is, what has 2 eyes and smokes? Pompeii. And of course, there's this pause, but then everybody laughs, and then he doubles down. He looks and he says, too soon? So that is, if you ever, I think this guy may have been at the comedy festival, and there is the object of the joke. This is a guy by the name of Randy Rainbow, who actually Brian will recognize, because Brian got me onto him, does these wonderful spoofs on George Bush.
My goodness.
Gee whiz, the good old days.
Yeah.
On the great orange cone. One he does as a modern Major General Gilbert and Sullivan's Pirates of Penzance, and he calls it the Stable Genius. They're beautiful production values to these little films. They're about 5 minutes long. Another one he does is a spoonful of sugar from Mary Poppins, but it's a spoonful of Clorox.
Clorox
makes
the medicine good. Very funny. I saw the video you sent me. So
did you? Yeah. And the production values are unbelievable, aren't they?
I will post that after we're done. Very good.
He's very, 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 very good.
And currently,
so Brian's now ready to kill me.
7 degrees.
I was going to issue traffic reports as well, but I thought Brian would want to get on.
Looking at the weather and telling each other the weather. There he is.
Wait a minute. Murph, you told me you were going to wear a tie, pal.
Well, I'll go and get one, Dave.
and you as a director would know, look at this. You know, I'm the Missouri River going, yeah, God almighty.
Yvan, are we taking bets that he's got his PJs on underneath it?
No, well, you didn't see what I saw the other day. Never mind the PJs. I saw something much more frightening than that. We're not going to go there, okay?
It's a family show, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, guys. I don't have to show you. It's not even the PJs. There we are.
Oh, wow.
Brian, it's good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. Long time no see.
Buckwheat is dead. Let's take a look. We were talking about that yesterday. And
you know what? Just for you, let me just do this here. Why not? I did a little work last night, and here we are. Where is it? 1 second. Share. We'll go here. And can you see that?
You're not sharing. Oh, no, again.
Oh, I'm not sharing.
I'm not the only one.
Am I doing a Harrington?
Oh, there you are. We got it now. We got it now.
There we go, eh? Buckwheat.
Yep.
And Buckwheat, believe it or not, is dead. There he is.
Okay, there we go. This is the sketch I was talking to you about yesterday. And then Brian, who used to direct Newswatch, would do a what would you call I guess a clothing check and everything else before we went to air. So he'd say, Buckwheat is dead. Let's take a look. And that's what I would hear in my earphone before we went to air. And he'd check out to see and make sure the tie was straight and the jacket was on properly. So
that was an Eddie Murphy sketch on SNL, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, and look at my God, he's got the
mug and everything else. Those were the days.
Looking inside, and I think there were still remnants of VTR coffee in there.
My.
Knowing you, Brian, there's probably booze in there.
Nah, you never know.
Brian, there's been a lot of water through the mill since you and me and Dave and others worked together at Maison Radio Canada. My goodness, where do we begin? Where did you go when you left that particular occupation?
I left Montreal and I went to Vancouver and sort of reinvented myself in Vancouver. Because, like, as they say in the United States, if you haven't been fired at least 3 times in broadcasting, you're not worth anything at all.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
And of course, I got canned in Montreal. We all knew that, and I moved on. It was a change of regime at Radio Canada at CBC, and they brought their own people. So I went to Vancouver and reinvented myself and did well, very well.
And you did what out there?
I freelanced. I produced and directed a lot of television for freelanced for the CBC out there. Actually, the weird thing is my first job upon arriving in Vancouver, aside from doing corporate television, was pinch hitting for the executive producer of the Téléjournal in British Columbia. Believe it or not.
My God, CBUFT?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I replaced a fellow who went on medical leave for about 3 months, and I was hired by George LaFlèche, who used to do a program a long time ago called the BA Musical Showcase when we were all little kids. Anyway.
My BA, yeah, British American. Well.
Yeah. Anyway, long story, not to get boring with it, I did a lot of freelancing with the CBC, with BCTV, with CKVU, with all of the independent production companies in Vancouver, and got picked up to work in the States, and ended up working out of San Francisco a lot, and New York, and all over, and then went from there. Developed a production company, opened one in Vancouver, got picked up by TV Ontario to open up another one there, and I opened up one up there, and then we had a branch office in Montreal, my partner and I, Heike, and she ran Vancouver, I ran Toronto, and then we decided we could never get together in either of the cities, because when we would sit down to have dinner, somebody would hear us talking, or somebody would recognize us and come up and say, hey, can I give you my resume? Right. So,
Wait a minute. San Francisco was stuff for PBS, right?
That's right. Yeah, I did. I started doing food programming, cooking shows in Vancouver. I did a series with Ann Willen out of the Knowledge Network studios, and they were looking for a director who could go on the fly, if you will. And my name was passed around by some very kind people there. And I got picked up to do that, and those folks liked my work, and they brought me down to San Francisco, and I subsequently worked with Molly Katzen and did a couple of series with her, all of her series actually, and then I went on to do Jacques Pépin's show, and we won won a James Beard Award for that, which was really kind of nice.
Wow, congratulations. Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, with his daughter, Claudine. Wonderful staff, amazing people. I learned so much. Great guy to work with. And then I worked with another guy. I worked with Martin Yan for a while. I worked with Michael Chiarello for a while. I worked with Canada's Karen McSherry for a while. Done a lot of food TV and some other stuff.
There's plenty of stuff out there. And now both of you are gonna laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna ask the dumb question.
Yep.
Doing the food show is a straight shot of the guy looking at the camera talking, and an overhead shot of him whisking something into a pan. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
Yeah. Okay. You were going to ask that.
No. There's a lot of production that goes into, and you notice this because my spouse especially is hooked on these things. So we watch a lot of food shows, and my goodness, Milk Street and all the other ones.
Excellent show.
Very, very high production values and budgets in there too, because the lighting and the shooting and the close-ups, and you have to prepare 16 versions of the same dish and this and that and the other thing. So, and it's quite something.
Yeah, what you see in front of the camera is probably 1/10 of what's actually going on. I mean, at KQED in San Francisco, we did a series out of there. I mean, they had one studio that was immense, and that studio was the back kitchen, as it's referred to. And in there were like 4-star chefs, believe it, all right, working. Like, if you're prepping food for Jacques Pépin, you better be bloody good, So.
Okay, so there's a shitload going on behind the scenes, but
America's Test Kitchen is another one too. It's just just meticulously done, right down to the last chunk of carrot that's chopped. It's quite simple.
Yeah, so KQED, which is a PBS station, has bags of money, don't they?
Well, they have a lot of funding, but the way it works in the States, when you want to do a show like that, you present your program, and then if the station has a certain amount of funding, you've got to bring in funding from underwriters, should tell you the underwriter story sometime. And then you go to what they call APS, which is like a marketplace in the United States for PBS, and you present your program and pitch other stations on picking it up for the network. And the more places that you put it in, the more funding you'll get, obviously, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you two guys talking about all the preparation that goes into this and the four-star chefs behind the scenes leads me to two questions. How long would 1 hour of programming take to make right? I mean, reshoots. Oh shit, I dropped the wrong egg, or what?
Well, I got hired because I did like anywhere between 4 and 5 shows a day. But I'm a food freak, and I got hired because I cut food shows like we learned to cut at Radio Canada. Everything was live, right? I learned to do television live. And in the States, many of the directors who were doing food programming before me were not doing it live. They were blocking everything, and it was like they had a note, pot goes on on burner number 4 and so on. I didn't work that way. I just said, you do it, I'll find it. And we hired some of the best camera people you could find who did baseball. They're all sports guys. And we had
stuff on the fly, right?
Yeah, it's like follow the puck. We'll follow the pot, and follow the chef. And it worked out really well. We had one instance, I don't want to bore you with a lot of food stories, but one instance we were working down at Fox Studios in Oakland, California, doing a program with Molly Katzen. And one of the operators, the tape operators, at the time we were recording on tape as opposed to digital, actually it was digital, but it was digital tape. And my producer was in the habit of recording each of the cameras. So she had a split feed, and all of the cameras were being individually recorded, as well as what I was cutting being recorded, the actual line cut, if you will. And if I missed or I screwed up, they could go back and patch it up, or if whatever. The kid who was supposed to roll all of the machines in the recording room went out for lunch and blew a joint, and and came back and hit roll, poof, on the principal machine and didn't roll the other machines. And my director, or my producer rather, Peggy Lee Scott, who I love dearly, freaked out. And anyway, long story short, they went in, and luckily my line cut was on the nose and there wasn't any issue, so they were able to get away with it. But
What about the kid who had the spliff?
he lost his job, and the guy who was the station manager, because they called these jobs retail in the States. That's how they refer to when you come in with a job, it was a retail job. And my producer was saying to him, that's like $20,000, $25,000 a day for the studio rental and so on and so forth. She wanted that back. And he said, well, if we've screwed up and you don't have a show, okay, then we'll make some other deal. But let's go look at the line cut first. So when he came back from looking at the line cut with her, he came up to me and he said, anything you want, name it, any restaurant you want.
I can believe that. And again, that's thanks to your training as a live TV director.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that, because it's thank you to all the people like you guys here who are in front of the screen, who I cut my teeth on. All of the training that I got at probably the best university for television in North America at the time, which was La Maison de Radio Canada. Without a doubt, I got to watch Jean-Jacques Chatoyan, Bernard Picard, Michel Kidos. I got to watch all of these fabulous directors work and see how they treated people, and that was what the difference was.
You're an orchestra director, because you're on your feet and you're punching things around, and it's all happening in real time. And because I worked in television thereafter, again with a generation of people who were, even though we were recording programs, they would stop and think, well, it's just a recording, we're going to start again. No, I tried to instill in them the habit of just going ahead as if you're doing live television,
Exactly.
Yeah. And all three of us know the horrors and the beauty of live television.
Yeah, we do.
Finished it, man, it's great.
And I work with another friend of ours a lot. I mean, a dear friend. He's like a brother to me, George Athens. And he has the same attitude, and it's like, get it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Get it.
Yeah.
And we work like on all kinds of stuff. And 90% of the time, first shot at it is what we'll end up taking. We may take 2 or 3, but nevertheless, We always get it.
George has certainly etched out quite a niche for himself in the production of films of all kinds. You guys travel all over the place. Can't do that now.
We do. It's been a lot of fun. Let me try and find something here, and I'll show you. Hold on, one sec. Where am I here? Escape, and I'll get rid of that. I have a picture of George and I. Let me go here, and I'll go back here, and I'll share. Here we are, share screen. There's a picture of George and I. This is
Oh my gosh.
This is 10 years ago on a beach in Barbados. And let me just go back down here.
Who's the person pointing to the pretty girl? Is that you?
That's George. I'm up on the ladder.
Oh, I see. He's pointing, saying, pretty girl here.
Here, exactly. That's Leah Marble, Miss World Barbados.
Of course.
And of course.
Yeah, that's George.
And this one here is 10 years later, this past February, George and I on a beach as well with another beautiful woman, Nicole Massey is her name. And we're shooting together there. So I'll stop sharing. But yeah, we've done all kinds of stuff like that. We've also spent a lot of time traveling across the Arctic. We went from one end, Eastern Arctic to the
No, Of course, one of the problems you're having these days is you can't go anywhere. Look at that beautiful workshop you've got behind you. Pardon me for calling it that, atelier.
Yeah, that's my virtual. This is a virtual look at it. I would have you guys in the studio, but my partner, my lovely wife Heike, is downstairs, and she's on Zoom right now because, like Betsy, she works with McGill University, and she's zooming away, working Monday to Friday. So, but yeah, that's it. That's my my new studio, my new edit suite, which is fun. And then outside that room, there's a whole pile of closets full of cameras and equipment and stuff like that.
Wow.
You built that yourself?
I did, yeah. This is probably my 10th edit suite. I started building suites when I was in Vancouver. We had an amazing setup there. We had a loft with 3 edit suites and an audio post-production facility. And then we had 1, 2, 3 edit suites and 4 edit suites in Toronto and an audio post-production.
So what brought you back to Montreal?
A lot of things, actually. I was faced with all of my technology. I was faced with the decision as to whether I was going to upgrade everything to high definition a few years back, which was a tremendous expense. And I knew it was coming down the road. So I sold off what I had in Vancouver, and I wanted to buy a home. And of course, we all know if you want to buy a home in Vancouver, you've got to be very wealthy. I mean, very wealthy.
Yeah.
And we weren't in that situation. And my wife is from Germany. And we were her family, her mom was getting older, and we were traveling from Vancouver to Germany to visit her family and so on and so on.
Ooh, that's a long ride.
Well, it was. I mean, it was like, Vancouver to Reykjavik, basically, or a stopover in Iceland, change planes, and then fly in. It was a long way, right? And she had never been to Montreal. So at one point, I was working in Toronto, and I said, let's meet in Montreal. I'll show you my hometown. I'll show you where I grew up, because we met in Vancouver. And she came here and she loved it. She looked around, she went, God, it's like a European city. This is gorgeous. And being a very astute person, she also picked up the newspaper and looked at what the price of housing was here compared to the price of housing in Vancouver. And that kind of clinched it,
Yeah. Or even Toronto, right? I mean, it's getting more expensive, but when you guys moved back, everything was still reasonable on the island.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you back, Brian.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back.
So thanks for sharing with us today.
Good to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. We'll have to do that. How's your bread, by the way?
It's yeah, I was told by Monsieur Brinston here that you are a baker and a cook as well. That's a whole other
insane.
A whole other broadcast.
Yeah, a whole other thing. We'll do it. Maybe we should do a virtual lunch one day.
We should do that. Yes.
That's a great idea.
You make the bread. I'll make the soup. Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get the marts too.
Sounds like a plan. Cheers.
Thanks, Brian.
Buddy.
Guys.
Good to see you,
Well
Brian.
done. Talk to you soon.
That's been, my God, that was a long time ago.
Well,
Montreal's
a great place to move to.
Experiencing some technical problems here, so that's Zoom for us today. It's a bit of a crapshoot, and your mic was kind of scratching there too. Nothing you were doing,
really?
But it seems to have come and gone. So That's the way the cookie crumbles these days. But
How did Brian come through? Of course,
Brian
he
there's a bit of a lag there in his audio, perhaps because he had 2 people streaming at home at once. But this is the way things work these days.
Well, we hope to get it fixed tomorrow to have Uncle
There's
Bernie.
Bernard, Mononc will be on with us.
Mononc.
That's right. So
okay, so we'll have. I'll look into it.
Will you? Would you? Could you pick up the phone and call Zoom in California and tell them?
What if I pull this off?
Who's calling? It's Dave.
Oh, jeez. You hear this running down a hallway, guys, right? Carrying equipment to run away.
That's like it's the old Cheech and Chong sketch, right? Who is it? It's Dave. Dave's not here. It's Dave. Dave's not here. Oh, man.
Okay, pal. That was great with Brian.
Yeah, that was terrific. God, he looks good. He looks good.
And I tell you, you guys, the 2 of you, I'll just sit back and shut up. I promise. The 2 of you could talk about cooking and baking.
Oh, we could talk. We could do a whole edition on cooking shows and cooking alone. But that's great. We'll have to have him on again.
Alrighty, bud.
Ciao. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Adame.
Bye.